It's time for another quick takes, ladies and gentlemen. The second one in one day. Unbelievable. That's the first time in keeping score history. So make a mark on the calendar. This one's going to be a quick one. 6 things we learned from this year's wild card weekend, and it was certainly an interesting one. Number 6, take the Texans, okay? They are a 16-point underdog versus the Pats in Foxborough. That is an unprecedented spread. That's, I believe, the third largest spread for a playoff game in NFL history. 16 points for the Patriots in Foxborough. Meanwhile, the Texans are the number 1 defense in the league. The Patriots running the ball more as well, so that clock is going to tick. The Texans, it's going to be a defensive-minded game. A 16-point spread, I don't buy that spread. I would take the Texans in that game. Number 5, it's a 7-team race. Previously, I did not think that the Seahawks had any chance of winning the Super Bowl this year. In fact, I had 5 teams in total in the playoff field that I said, you got no chance to win the Super Bowl. The Seahawks were one of those teams. I take it back after watching Saturday's wild card game. Why? Well, the Seahawks, they're a defensive-minded team. In terms of their offense, they've been very reliant on their rushing attack, and their run game has not been what it was in the past. But Thomas Rawls versus the Lions, 161 yards, 1 touchdown in that game. So I'm going to bank on the fact that Seattle's running game could possibly be back. They haven't been the same team on the road, though. So next up against Atlanta, it's important to note, Atlanta hasn't been unstoppable in their dome either. So that'll be an interesting one, but I do think that there's a conceivable path for the Seahawks to make the Super Bowl this year. Number 4, Giants receivers struggle. I'll tell you what, the Packers came out of that game. They were playing press coverage with their defensive backs, and they had no safety help. It was a very interesting defensive scheme right out of the gates. Eli Manning recognized it, and he was delivering the balls that he needed to deliver, and the receivers were not capitalizing. In my opinion, it could have been 17-0 in the first 6 to 8 minutes of that game, and at the very, very least, you would have had a very close game if the Giants receivers were able to capitalize. Most notably, Odell Beckham Jr. had 3 drops in the game. Number 3, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, Ben Rothlisberger. Somehow, someway, this was the first time all 3 of them played together in a playoff game. All 3 of them kind of injury-prone guys, so it hadn't happened until this year. Mind-blowingly so. And you know what? They did not disappoint. You got Le'Veon Bell. I had the stats up. Where'd they go? Anyway, 157 yards rushing. He had 2 touchdowns. Antonio Brown, he also had 2 touchdowns. Ben Roethlisberger, though, tweaked his ankle. We'll talk about that a little more later. But the big 3, this is why I picked them to win the Super Bowl. They're a potent big 3, a huge, all 3 of them, huge weapons, and they're going to be hard to stop, but they'll get a good test next weekend against Kansas City. Number 2, NFL still struggling with their product. There was so much talk all year about the NFL ratings being down. They're down 10% this year. And what do we get wild card weekend? An average margin of 19 points. That means the winning teams on wild card weekend won by an average of 19 points. That is unbelievable. The only game that looked like it was going to be good was Giants-Packers, and then all of a sudden, second half, what do you know? We got another blowout on our hands. And the number one takeaway that I got from wild card weekend is that the bye week matters. Why? Because of injuries. Jordy Nelson got taken out of that game. He took a shot to the ribs, and his status is in major question for the game against the Cowboys, Sunday's game against the Cowboys. Meanwhile, also, I mentioned Ben Roethlisberger. He also tweaked his ankle. So, to me, if you can avoid one more game, one more week, where you don't run the risk of your stars getting hurt, that trumps all for me. So we're going to start hearing these debates about are the Cowboys rusty or rested? Are the Patriots rusty or rested? I don't want to hear it. The bye week matters because your guys can't get injured. Guys like Mo Claiborne for the Cowboys, guys like Justin Houston for the Chiefs. These guys are resting right now. Both of those guys banged up, and because their team got the bye, they're able to rest, and they're able to heal up. So there you have it. Those are 6 things we learned from this year's Wild Card Weekend. Let me know if you guys liked this format, this rapid fire 6 things we learned. Maybe I'll do it more often. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.